Welcome to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. This is our service. It's a Father's Day service, so welcome to all those fathers at home. I'm going to jump out with some announcements. Today, what has historically been our 3 o'clock Zoom call is moved, at least for the moment, permanently until 1 o'clock, and we're going to do section 2 of a race and white supremacy identity series that we've pulled together. So that call is available. You can look on the website for those details. There's also a 2 p.m. membership call today on Zoom as well. We're starting to read a book, 2 books actually. One is White Fragility, if you get your hands on it, but there's also a YouTube connection where the book is read on YouTube. It's largely unavailable, but we're reading that, and on July 5th, I'm going to preach on that topic, and we're really kind of focused on the Black Lives Matter movement, and the police violence has sort of gathered our focus here at PUC. So White Fragility, if you want to join in on that engagement with us, we're going to preach on it, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it. There's also a book for the book group called The Other Wes Moore, title being The Other Wes Moore, and it's One Name, Two Fates. It's a black man and a white man who share a name and the different sort of events in their lives that follow from that. We're going to push our start date back 1 week to August 16th. We wanted to gather back for the board retreat before so we could work out any details of us gathering back and make sure that we're all safe and have that gathered as well as we can. And it looks like we're also not going to do a Building Your Own Theology on July 4th, which we had slated earlier, but we just felt like it's a holiday. So today is our service on really kind of the process of becoming men, and we have a number of voices here today from our congregation. They're going to speak for 5 minutes or so apiece about their journey to adulthood and the experiences that they've had, partially engaged in what it has meant for them to be fathers. And we all know that the spiritual work of growing up and maturing is always done in groups, and we're doing that now virtually today. But the abstract ways that values like kindness and how people manage their anger and humility and risk is sort of always done and shared. So we wanted to present different voices today. That work of becoming a man is never done alone, as many men's groups have discovered. So it's only when people really do things together that we can sort of find models and evaluate our own behavior. So today's about the process of becoming a father and really becoming a man. And I'm going to invite up Leanne Hart, who's going to read our chalice words for us while I light our chalice, which gives us all an opportunity to light our own chalices at home.
Good morning. Today's chalice words will be presented in bite-sized morsels. A trust that at reality's deepest there is goodness. Faith not in one article of belief, but a wordless faith. Rigor to stick with your character and live up to your values when no one is looking. A concern for one another that is an intimate version of the concern you have for the world. An understanding that, as Cornel West says, justice is what love looks like in public, and a hope that things will go well. Now Severin will play We Give Thanks.
We give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for the time we share with love and care. We give thanks for this precious day. One more time. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
Thank you, Severin. I'm going to light one single candle. We normally have the tradition of people coming forward and lighting their own candles in a very democratic way of sort of intercessory prayers, you might call it. Today we have our own Maurice, who's been a longtime member of this church, and he's got a number of family issues. He's lost an uncle, he has cousins with pulmonary problems and fighting breast cancer. There's a member of his family who's just recently hit by a truck, which makes Maurice feel like he was just hit by a truck, and all of this, of course, in a pandemic challenging time. We think also of little Brendan Garcia, our newest little blessed creature in this congregation, and he is in nearly a full body cast. He had to have a hip placed in there, so we think, our hearts go out to Maurice and to the Garcia family who are trying to keep a little toddler happy and keep their own sanity in mind. Marianne Stein and George are back visiting a little baby in their family, so that's a blessing. But with the COVID, concerns and how we get back there has been, there's been a lot more excessive drama for a lot of families who were there. So I want to particularly lift up, though, John Einhorn, Gary Hart, who's right behind the camera, and also Dan Dempster, who are leaving the board. Like, really three strong, great board members who've done amazing service. They'll be hard to replace, and we're blessed to bring on Robin Earhart, a longtime member, very involved with RE, has led a book group. She's a teacher. We're bringing on Steve Schlegel, who's just been involved with everything these days, and plays the flute in the choir, sings in the choir, and Donna Trimmingham, who's a regular member of a lot of groups and one of our greeters. So we've got a good team coming on, but I want to particularly thank those who've been of service and do all that quiet behind the scenes work. So Dan, John, and Gary, who we're not going to lose their labors of, I won't let them run away, but blessings to them and their service. So I light a candle for all of that. Here's our prayer. We just had June 19th. We've had a number of, peaceful protests, some violent activities. I think we're settling into the place where the real work of figuring out how to get racial equality and how to do safer policing is now the nitty-gritty of that is coming to be. So let's just pause for a minute and hope that our nation can heal. Maybe we have a new holiday we're going to celebrate. That feels like that's on the edge. Let's just say a prayer for our nation. We certainly didn't invent othering of others. We didn't invent slavery. We didn't invent a lot of that, but we have certainly done our part to contribute to those challenging social life effects. And the impact of COVID, right? Just at the time when we're tired of staying in and we're trying to open up the economy and not burden everyone with the economics of it all and the social implications of being cooped up in our houses, we see these rates increase. Some of us are touched directly by the pandemic. Some of us are just tired of being cooped up. Some of us have lost jobs. I think about those particular people. We lift up a candle of gratitude for those who work on the front lines, the healthcare workers, probably most famously grocery store workers, police officers, all those people who can't help but face the disease. To me, it's the people at the shopping centers that have to face so many new people. So we say a prayer for them and for all of us. We light a candle for those who are dying in isolation, those who work in nursing homes. It's just a tough time, and this has been a tough year for our nation, and we can only hope that it gets better. We can only hope it gets better, and we say a little prayer for that and we turn over our time to a little meditative music with Severin. We have two men today who are going to speak about their journey to manhood and to their journey to fatherhood as well. First is Naresh Deo, and the second is Andy Kistner, and I'm just going to invite them up at this time to share their thoughts. Thanks.
Good morning. My journey to becoming an independent adult, a man and a father, began with my move to America in 1974 for graduate studies. As if the transition to the state of Maine was not dramatic enough, I also met my wife-to-be on my first day, and in fact in the first hour of being in the US. Last Thursday was our 44th wedding anniversary. Thank you. We were married in less than 2 years after we met. Coming from rather conservative family, both religiously and educationally as well as socially, and my being educated in a rather elite, very advanced and modern college, made my transition to becoming a member of this society both challenging and easy, and becoming a mature adult. And I say that with a grain of salt. In fact, the fact that my spouse-to-be was a white American woman must have been very unsettling to my parents. Both my siblings were married by arranged marriages, and in fact, they married their spouses, had the same last name as theirs. Susan's parents also were very cautious and guarded in this possibility, but they had the actual dubious benefit or advantage of meeting me in person in the state of Maine and in their home in Illinois. My parents had to just contend with trying to guess by looking at pictures that we had been sending them of people, and they figured there was a girl in every one of those pictures and there must be something there. My journey to becoming a financially responsible person was not so hard. I had come to the United States with only $278 in my pocket and a graduate scholarship of around $2,450 per year. So it forced me to be very conservative in both my habits and spending. My biggest purchase in the first 2 years of my life in the US was a pair of new cross-country skis for $78. But that gave me the advantage of developing love for New England winter, for nature, and much, much more. We moved to Central Illinois for my PhD program. Always living on university campuses and in university environment both sheltered me and exposed me to serious political, cultural, and social issues of the time, which included race, geopolitical conflicts, environmental policies, and poverty and hunger in America, that too. We had friends and acquaintances from all faiths, political spectrum, religions, ideologies, nationalities, and all that. That shaped my values and my aspirations and even biases and prejudices. 70s were no less turbulent than the present times or decades before and thereafter. Raising a biracial family in Western Massachusetts with 5 major liberal colleges around me was not very challenging, I thought, or so I thought. It was much later in life that I learned the difficult time our 2 daughters had in school with teasing and slurs and much more. And yet, I believe that has made them who they are today. Very strong, caring, self-assured, and fiercely independent, and very socially hyper-knowledgeable. Tattooed on the arm of our lawyer daughter is the phrase, Lovings versus Commonwealth of Virginia. That was her thesis in law school. Hard to believe that was only 53 years ago that interracial marriages were illegal in many states in America. She also chose not to marry to all could marry who they loved. Only after the striking down of DOMA and legalization of same-sex marriage throughout the world. I have walked a perfect straight line in my profession and in my career as well, from the time of going to school to this day. And yet, our younger daughter has taught me that one can make drastic changes in their career, in their profession, and in life paths without any fear of consequences or failures. And I am just considering that at the age of 68 now. In the Middle East, it is traditional to name your children Abu Dawood, meaning the father of Dawood, or David. Abu means father. To be known by name of your child is a great honor. I wish I could rename myself at this time Abu Shalanj, father of Shalini and Anj, our 2 daughters. Needless to say, my spouse also had a defining role in my becoming a father and a man that I am today. I often joke that I was a mail order bridegroom she ordered because it was really, really cheap at that time. Or that I married her to get a green card really, really fast. Both not true, I think. But I learned from her respect for environment, all I know about biodiversity, the power of volunteering, and much, much more. Cooking, maybe not so much. That was somehow already in my DNA. I know who I am today as a man, a husband, and a father is almost entirely shaped by my family, my many, many mentors and friends, and perhaps very little by traditional influencers like philosophers, authors, religious leaders, or political figures. Our daughters continue to give me life and inspiration to achieve really loftier goals, including becoming a TikTok celebrity. Happy Father's Day, everybody.
Well, Father's Day. Father's Day, Reverend Steve texted me the other day and said, hey, can you talk about my journey that I've had as a father and a man? But to do so, I gotta rewind a bit. I gotta go back a few years, about 31, when my brother goes, hey, Andy, come to California. Come to California, it's a land of opportunity. And I did. And at that time, I got a job at Dun & Bradstreet. I met my wife, Janet. And it was love at first sight. She hooked me pretty good. It's like a big fish. Went, got me right in. Fell in love with a California girl.
Yeah.
Closer? Louder? Okay. I never get asked to talk louder, so it's a new thing. All right, go back a few years. So my love with my wife and the family that I started 30 years ago was something that most men do in their lives. The bigger part of that was looking at the spiritual journey that I needed to take as a person to truly become the man that I needed to be. Now, growing up, I always heard the same stereotypes, comments about what it is to be a man. Men don't cry. Be strong. Don't show weakness. Be in charge. Be dominant. Be the decision maker. And never, never, never show emotion. Can't do that. That's not allowed as a guy. Society dictated to me, instead of me, what I decided to be as a person. So I chose to connect. About 4 years ago, I joined a group in San Diego, Unitarian Universalist Men's Fellowship. In addition, I go to a local group called Wide Sky Men's Council in Long Beach. And through the process, I have begun to understand and see the different aspects of what it is to be a man. I chose to connect with those archetypes, is what I call them, the positive aspects of the male psyche, the lover, the magician, the warrior, and the king, each providing their own unique perspective on what it means to be a man, and connecting with each of those in their own unique and special way. Now, I wish I would know about all of those way back 30 years ago when I met Janet, about how to be a man, how to be the best person I could be before I became a father. I still remember the day when Janet told me she was pregnant. We just spent the day on the couch. We sat there. It was in a kind of state of shock because we didn't know what we had done. Well, we kind of knew what we had done, but we didn't know. What was I going to be a good father? What is it going to, well, I'm going to make mistakes. What's going to happen? What's my child doesn't like me? What if they don't like me? I don't know that because they're not born yet. All these crazy ideas running through my head before my daughter ever came into this world. So as a new father, I naturally looked to my father as an inspiration of how to be a good role model. I worked on changing those stereotypes that I was brought up in, and I worked on reinventing myself as a better version of what my dad meant to me. Now, being a father has been the best decision I've ever made in my life. Next to marrying my wife, Janet, since I couldn't have done one without the other. But it's a constant challenge to be a good father. It's not easy. Living and being the best person you can be every day, it can be exhausting. Choosing to be a Unitarian Universalist makes it even more complicated, but much more rewarding. Our faith is a faith of action. We are doers. We put it down into service, and doing and action is how we perform every day. And that can get tiring. But man, is it rewarding, and it brought me here to Pacific Unitarian Universalist Church. And raising a child in our faith was one of the best decisions I've ever made as a father. Giving her the basis for a very strong spiritual foundation, going through the OWL program and the coming of age, where she chose to create her own ideological beliefs before she went out into the world. So what do? Is I look at the person I've helped to raise, our daughter Marina. I see a mature woman who's chosen to be the implement of change in today's crazy world. A woman's chosen to be a doctor and to help others get better and stay healthy for life. So as I look at Father's Day, I not only look to my father, but I look to all the fathers who ever worked to be the best they can be for all of their families. All the fathers who have inspired me and others to be a better person. All the fathers who work each and every day to be the inspiration for the next generation of fathers and dreamers. Thank you.
I want to thank Naresh and Andy for their words, and two men who really, do step up and speak their truth and, behave. Naresh is probably one of our two sort of top chefs who manage the kitchen and provide us food when we're not in the middle of a pandemic, and started a food ministry that was designed to reach out and to help other people with food. And Naresh is always feeding me And Andy, in addition to his hard work as a teacher, is maintaining the trail. We have a beautiful little meditative path and called the Enlightenment Path, and people are comfortable walking up here. It was a project he did with his daughter, and we have religious statues, paced around. I think back to my childhood, and I remember my dad yelling up the stairs, "Steve, it's Sunday. You have to go to church." And I would roll over and grumble, "I'm not going." And yet my dad would yell up the stairs, "Steve, you got to go to church." And I'd say, "I don't want to go to church. They all make fun of me. They hate me there." And then he called up the church and really got me going. He said, "You're a 42-year-old man. You're the minister of the church. Go to church." We invite you to give generously for the life and work of this institution and gratitude of all the spiritual work that we do here. Thanks.
When you smile, when you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, bring out the rain, so stop your sighing. Be happy again when you smile. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles.
Thank you, Severin. If you are with someone in your home this morning, please join hands and remember that this church is dedicated to the proposition that behind all of our differences, beneath all of our diversity, there is unity that makes us one and binds us forever together, in spite of time and death and the space between the stars. We pause in silent witness to that unity.
May the blessing of love be upon you. May love's peace abide with you. May love's presence illuminate your hearts now and forevermore. So be it. Shalom, salam, namaste, blessed be, and as we say, and now our service truly begins. Thanks for joining us on this Father's Day. That concludes our service. Go in peace. Be